Hello and welcome to New Europe Studios on Place Jourdan. I am Dan Alexe. With us today, Mrs. Klajda Gjosha, Albanian Minister for European Integration. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me this morning in your office.
Thank you for coming. European integration, that means you have one of the most important ministries. One could say more important than the Ministry of Defense. You will not lead a war in the Balkans, but you have to push your country into Europe.
Yes.
How far are you from the goal?
Well, it is true that it is one of the most important ministries in Albania, and this is because European integration process for us, it is a true priority. It is one single priority that we have, and we really hope that very soon we have the green light to go further with the integration process. Last June, Albania got candidate status, which we truly appreciate that all the member states voted for Albania's candidate status. What we are doing right now is focusing very much on the 5 key priorities which are already set for Albania. We are working very much with the Commission in order to go forward with the 5 key priorities. The true importance for us is the judicial reform that we are undertaking right now.
That is one of the 5.
This is one of the 5, but
judicial
of course
reform.
It is one of the most important ones, because the other key priorities are, of course, the fight that we are doing for corruption, so anti-corruption measures that we are taking, organized crime.
This is a Balkan disease.
Yes. Organized crime, and of course these two get the answer with the judicial reform. So this is why the real focus right now is to have the judicial reform in place so that many of the other key priorities get settled.
And the negotiations are structured in what is called chapters.
Yes.
How many are there?
There are 35
chapters.
Of course, Albania has not opened yet negotiations. This is what we are trying to do. We really hope that we do get recommendation from the Commission. We are doing everything that we can in order to have this recommendation and then go further with the
So the process is you open a chapter, let's say justice, and then you negotiate until your legislation is up to the level of the EU legislation. What is called the acquis communautaire.
This is the real technical part. This is why we're looking forward to open negotiations, because that will be the time where Albania will sit together to open one chapter by one, and then is the real technical thing. This is the strict process that we have to enter to.
Can you propose, can you push for a chapter to be opened? Or is it a common decision? How does it go?
It is a negotiation process. Of course, from what we know right now, we know that the Commission likes always to start with the 2 most difficult chapters, 23
with the most difficult.
24. They have to do with the rule of law, chapters, human rights. So
one wouldn't call human rights the most difficult chapter.
No, but this is part of it is part of these chapters. So this will be probably the 2 first chapters that will be open. This is a similar process that is happening in other countries as well, like Montenegro, because
Turkey is another.
Yes, because the process goes along, I think, the same for.
Yes, and once a chapter is closed, when everybody is happy that the legislation has been leveled,
yes,
can it be reopened? In case something happens, or
I think once it's closed, this has to do with the acquis. That the acquis is in place. We have the legislation which is put forward, so the Albanian legislation goes towards the EU legislation, basically. So I think it cannot be open for the part that everything is in the right place, the legislation is in place, and everything goes in the right.
But there is no time limit. It can go on forever.
Absolutely. Albania, well, the real thing for us is that the process is of great importance for the modernization of our institutions, modernization of our country, to have the rule of law in place, which has been missing for quite a long time right now. So this is what we're trying to do mostly. And the process itself is of great importance. There is no important for us a date where we become a member of the European Union, but it is important that we do open negotiations as soon as possible.
What is the medium term? Like Croatia has negotiated for how many? 5 years, 6 years? But on the other hand, Turkey has started ages ago and is still far from the goal. How do you feel when you are told that during this Commission term, there will be no enlargement.
For us,
it mustn't be very stimulating.
Okay. From what I understand, with enlargement, is of course becoming a member state, which Albania is not expecting to become a member state in the next 5 years. But we do expect that in the next
decade
or year, we open negotiations, and this is the real important further step that we want to take. Of course, there is no similar politics with what you mentioned before with Ukraine or with Turkey. It is not a similar situation with our country, because at the end of the day we know very well that Albania is part of Europe, not only geographically but with full spirit. So we really want to be a member state one day.
Who are your allies? Like Italy, for instance, is it more friendly to you? Croatia? You must have some countries that support you more than others.
Albania usually is intended to have very good relations with all member states. We have developed lately very, very good relations, even with more developed member states like Germany, France, UK. So this is all to do even in bilateral matters that we've been undertaking lately. But of course, Italy, Greece, these are countries which are neighbors with Albania. They have always been
traditionally
real
more
partners.
friendly, more.
Of course, more friendly. And at the end of the day, they are the biggest supporters for our integration process. It has been a huge help that came from them, even for the candidate status that we managed to take us to.
And in the Balkan context, do you feel like the position of Kosovo, for instance, is a burden for you? Are you more or less slowed down by the situation of Kosovo?
Absolutely not. We don't feel that Kosovo is a burden. It's absolutely the contrary. We really like to cooperate with all the countries who aspirate to become one day member states, because they are part of Europe. It is important that we walk together towards Europe. We're really glad that with the Berlin conference we started a new neighborhood cooperation process, let's say, so that we proceed with common projects together to develop and to become more close to the European Union member states, basically. So for us, none of the countries is a burden. Is totally the contrary. They are big supporters, they are a big help, and together we would like to work to get through to European Union.
So one can expect you to tread very carefully in these matters. For instance, we know that there is a movement of identity in Kosovo, and people ask themselves whether they have a separate identity from the Albanians, from Albania proper. What is the Albanian view? How do you view them?
Well, from what we know, these Albanians now feel part of this community. Of course, they would like to be treated same as the other community part where they're living in. But one good thing is that always the Albanians have played a great role towards convincing and talking to these communities to be part of Europe. And we've played a really, really good role in this kind of politics, let me say. And we're very, very proud of it. The other thing is that we produce very good image and messages when it comes to religion, neighborhood, and the common living together. Basically, this is the best message that Albania has ever given to these countries, and even beyond that.
Of course, Albania is more secularized.
Yes, it is secularized. There are many religious communities who live together in Albania in full peace, and there's never been a problem.
You even have a national religion like the Bektashi that only exists in Albania.
Yes, but on the other hand, we would like Europe not to take this for granted, because there are always, circulars around which can drag this idea of religious more forward into terrorism, like we've heard these days. So we really want Europe not to take this for granted for Albania, but of course to promote this, because this is the best message that we can give to anyone.
And finally, what would be your strength? What do you feel, what do you think that you can bring to Europe?
Albania has, let me say, 87% of the people who are pro-Europeans. And I very proudly can say that this is one probably of the only countries who has such high percentage of people who love Europe basically and see Europe as a green light towards having a state which functions better for them. They're very friendly people. They are people who love future, and they can add value to all other European common values and to all member states. So I think a fresh new country to European Union with such good values and with such love for Europe, I think it is really needed at these days where Europe does not know at the moment where it is heading from.
You sound very convincing. Welcome to Europe. I wish you good luck in your negotiations.
Thank you very much. It's been a real great pleasure to
Klajda Gjosha, Albanian Minister for European Integration. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.